Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Ranty, Chocolate Sane, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Welcome back.
Yep, sorry about that. Don't know why we got sniped and then my computer crashed immediately after. Bizarre timing, but that's just the way it goes. Mind if we do some housekeeping?
Oh, do we have to? It's the same, Nathan. It's the same answer every time. There is no evidence for a ball.
Clean up your room, Riley.
Housekeeping's important.
What do you mean clear up my room? It's not my room that's dirty. It's the ball Earth model. It's the heliocentric room that's dirty, Arwin. It's not my room.
Yeah, but you gotta keep cleaning them out.
But it's always the same answer, though. There's never any evidence for a ball, Arwin.
Any sign of a hole in the ISS?
Yeah, we should add that one. That's great. Any evidence of a meteorite hole in the ISS?
Oh.
So I'm going to roam through either if you like it. I don't care. So any signs of curvature?
None.
Nope.
No.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety, Ranty?
No.
Nope.
Any proof of gravity?
Nope.
No.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope. Shout out to Jaren. Nope.
Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
Nope.
Well, Conspiracy Cats is supposed to be getting back to us on that one. But no.
No.
Currently, there isn't. Correct.
What about the distance to the sun? Anybody got a proven measurement for the distance to the sun?
It's far away.
Are you sure?
No.
It's very close.
You sure?
Are you sure?
No.
It's very bright.
Yeah, that I'll agree with.
Can't argue with that. Man.
No, can't argue with that, Arwin. Well done.
Do you know what it dawned on me? When I was looking at a bright LED that was on a little battery charger. When I looked at it and it was directly on axis to my eye, it looked just like the sun in the night sky. Perhaps the sun is an ultra bright LED, because that's what it reminded me of. And I just wondered, what is it we're actually looking at? Is it physical or not? And that's one of the best arguments that Arwin gives us to date. Can anybody prove that the sun is actually a physical, tangible object that we could, well, metaphorically touch? It's a valid question. How do you prove that the sun is spherical? How do you prove that it's physical? What is the evidence for it?
Be one hell of an electricity bill.
It could be the concentration of multiple light sources all focusing on the one point.
Maybe it's just the electricity of the ether that
agree.
is compounding somehow, getting a critical mass in a specific pattern.
I agree. It could
energies to radiate in specific directions, like a weave, like a veil.
Who says it's a molten? Who says it's what is it? A fusion heat? What is it? A hydrogen fusion ball? Who says that? Where does it come from? How do they know? What's the evidence that proves that it is spherical? Because I agree with Arwin. It could be something else. It could be some kind of fourth or fifth dimensional representation that we perceive as spherical because they tell us it is. But how do you prove that it's actually physical?
And the moon could be
approach it.
opposite.
Well, they sent in a probe
Only
up the
things
wow.
with locations can be approached, and then if you can approach it, touch it somehow.
Nathan, is the link available to the public yet?
I'm getting there. I've got
Right,
all on my
okay.
plate.
I've got the back door open.
Yeah, I've got the back door open.
Do.
But also, does the old chat, does that carry through, or does it not?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I've sorted all that. I'm nearly there. I'm 90% there to being back to running fully functioning and all the rest of it. But yeah, nearly there.
See, George Netanyahu's in chat, and I can't see his messages, so I must therefore be blocked by George. You wonder why that might be, George? Nothing to do with the nonsense that you've been spouting over things like Coriolis, Bill Miller, Brian Mullen. I mean, why don't you come on and tell us how Coriolis works, George? You're the most confusing person ever.
Well, tell us what century it is. That would be a start.
Yeah. Are we in the 18th, 19th? Hey, do you know what I found out that was great about Blackpool Tower? When they laid the first foundation stone for the pillars, you know, for the 4 legs that they put the tower on, they buried a time capsule underneath it, so that eventually, when it gets demolished, eventually in years in the time in the future comes and they have to relay the foundations for the new building or whatever, they'll come across the time capsule. Ranty, do you fancy getting his pickaxe out and let's go and see what's in it?
I thought you were going to say, do you fancy getting a pickaxe and putting me in it? Say, what?
It's just cool because it was built around about the end of the 1800s, 1890 something, I think. It would be great if we could find out what was in that capsule, because it would be like there'd be really old things in it. That's ace.
Yeah, it'd be funny if you opened it up and there was a mobile phone in there or something. You'd be like,
yeah,
what? It has a date on it of like 1652.
Yeah, imagine if there was a NASA document in it. Imagine if there was something from NASA in it and NASA was only formed after the war. Like, that would be great. Anyway, so shout out to Joey Sylvie, who says that George says the channel is getting ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous, George. That's the whole point of the channel. We're trying to show how ridiculous it is to believe that we live on a sphere, because there is no evidence for it, but you morons all think that there is. And all we're doing is asking the questions and asking, well, what evidence is there to support that assertion? And like most of the evidences or most of the assertions, there isn't any evidence to prove it. A bit like you with Bill Miller. How do you prove that Bill Miller is really a person, George?
And whilst you're there, Georgie Porgy, you want to go and head over to my channel? That's Ranty Flat Earth, and just take a look at the video that I put out today. I think you'll like that one. Shows you complete flatness, mate. Kind of crushes your ball argument. All this nonsense you standing in front of a whiteboard with your little markers means nothing when you compare it to real world observations.
He's not the bear to poke. George can't debunk stuff like that. You need to poke people like Sly Sparkane. He might have a go at it if you bully him enough. So if you're watching Sly, how do you explain Ranty's observation from Barrow Inverness? We see the streetlights. It's the same distance as Soundly over Lake Pontchartrain. Soundly shows the basketball. Ranty's showing it flat as a pancake at night time with no refraction. How are you going to explain that one? Bring up them curve calcs. Let's see them. And then get kicked.
Apollo, hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey,
Colorado,
Apollo.
if you want to join, the link's open now.
Hey, Apollo, you believe in the International Space Station, don't you?
Affirmative.
Do you think it's in space?
Well, we can see something in space, so...
How do you know it's in space?
Because you can measure with telescopes its distance.
Really? You can use a telescope to measure distance. How does that work?
With triangulation.
And do you assume that we live on a sphere to do that?
No.
Really?
You can do it on a... you can assume a sphere or a flat plane.
Yeah, and then you get different distances of height, don't you?
No, it's very minute differences. It depends how far the two
I agree.
telescopes are away.
I agree, but how do you explain the bullet wound that NASA are claiming that was the Brandon Toy?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hi.
Good morning. I wasn't sure about you. I was just about to kick you on the cautious.
No, sorry about that, Anthony. I'm here.
Cool, man. Cool. So,
Hey, Brandon.
Apollo, how do you explain the picture that has been cited in the newspapers about this apparent meteorite that's gone through the International Space Station that is basically album art from somebody's music cover?
Jose, is that you?
That isn't a.
Oh, who's kicked him?
It's a fake Jose.
That's what it is. It's a freaking.
No way. Ranty's been kicked and so is Jose.
No, I kicked Jose. It's a fake Jose.
I think
Fake Jose.
Jose got a sock.
Sorry, Ranty and Apollo's been kicked from a fake Jose account. You're being sneaky, you ballers. Is it because you can't hack the truth? Is that what it is?
I'll do a third
ridiculous.
one. Now we know what's going on, because obviously you won't get away with that a third time. So sorry,
Colorado,
new
speak up.
guests. I'm going to end this hangout. I'm afraid, new guests. It's going to be third time's the charm. Welcome to the show. This will genuinely be the work up but a moment this time. He says confidently. Okay, take 3. At least we know what's occurring now. Sneaky, sneaky. Sneaky ballers. You're in one of the Skype groups and you're getting frustrated with constant bleep bleeps from me showing these links, I can only apologise. Right, I've sent the link out on Skype anyway, so... Hi, Randy.
Whee! Hello.
Third time's a charm.
Sneaky little sneaks. Get the back door open.
I won't publish the link for 5-10 minutes.
Yep, I'm here. You guys here?
Yeah, good to have you.
Hi, Forrest. How are you? Is it Forrest or is it Colorado? Which one do you prefer to be called?
Whichever. You can call me Callie, which is my real name, so it's fine. Colorado Forest Beings is my hobby.
They're not liking this International Space Station bullet wound thing, are they? It's bad evidence in there against them.
Have you guys looked into the epoxy images and discussed them on the show yet?
Nope,
No,
yet.
don't think so.
Okay, see if someone can. It's my first time on the chat, so I don't know how it works to get the camera on. So if someone can look up epoxy images of Earth spinning in space.
Well, you know, on your watch page, sort of like where you can see our icons on the bottom. If you scroll across to the left, it'll open up another panel, and it'll say screen share, which will be the green icon.
Screen share, I see it.
Yeah, and then if you click, obviously, whichever one you want to display, or all of them, and then we show you as them.
Okay, cool. Cool. You want me to share my images? I got them pulled up here in my thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fire away.
So the reason why I mentioned these images, there's a guy. You guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
There's a guy that works for a aerospace company local here in Colorado, and he's been commenting in some channels. I've jumped into a conversation with him, and he's an employee of this space agency. He claims he navigates these spacecrafts in deep space. And when I ask for videos of full bar Earth spinning in space, he sends me this. He claims this is a real video. And then when you go on the video, the first thing the video says is that This is a composite made here. Let's do this here real quick. Look at this. First thing says range to Earth 31 million miles. Red, green, blue color composite. I mean, this is a joke. And you know, he claims they're videos, and then when you corner him, he goes back to images. And when you tell him composites, he just like starts saying how he navigates spacecraft in space.
Oh, that's what's called a fantasist.
But the thing that bothers me, you know, is like this is an employee of one of these companies. He's worked for some big name companies, and he's on the internet commenting about how real his stuff is, and then he fails to give proof of a valid video, and then he shares the rockets from SpaceX from the ground as an example of a rocket leaving compressed gas and going into the vacuum of space. It's unacceptable.
Sounds familiar?
Welcome to the show.
Do you not think the whole notion that we live on a spinning ball is, you know, essentially retarded?
No, it's
fantastical.
It is
It's
fantastic.
just a very interesting imagination, and it's very elaborate. That's what it is.
Fairy tale.
So to end the screen share, I just go on there and end it, or
You see at the bottom, you should have a little narrow bar that's opened up, and it'll just say stop sharing. So if you just click that.
I wouldn't
I'm
worry,
not
you're not
sharing
sharing
right now.
anymore anyway.
No, you're not sharing anymore.
Cool.
Right, George doesn't seem to understand, George, whatever he's called, Natiuk, that I cannot share a link in the chat. Nobody can post a link in the chat. I've already told him if he wants to go and watch my video to click the three buttons to the three little dots to the right of my name, and he will be able to go to my channel, or he can simply search Ranty Flat Earth on YouTube. It's dead easy.
I don't think he's able to do that kind of stuff. He can't even explain Coriolis. So what chance have you got of him managing modern technology?
Oh,
Hello, Wes.
Speak up.
Hello?
Hello, Wes. You all right?
Hey.
Hi, how are you? Hello, Wes.
We're going to get
Oh.
KP.
No, this is Chris. Sorry. I'm on my son's account.
No worries. Good to have you.
What's up, Chris?
And shout out to Brenda Von Hassen, who's trying to join. You're not going to get in, kid, because you just caused trouble.
All are welcome.
Nah, she's not. She removed somebody's work. It was Crow 777's work, 700 files of Crow 777, I recall. And because she claims it was a bat, I think that's despicable. Whilst I'm on the panel, she will not be getting on. It's that simple. I think that's just, it's terrible. That is horrible person. So all are welcome apart from Brenda.
Nathan, do you think you could post my channel link in the side chat so that
I'm on
George
it.
can
I'm on
click the link?
Where's Eddie dropped? He just dropped. Hello?
Maybe Brenda has like proof
Okay.
for like the space.
Darwin.
Hey again.
So I've removed that Wes Ellie account so that we can keep track of who's in and who's not in.
Yeah. I was just about to do that myself.
They don't like this bullet wound thing, do they? I mean, we've not had this level of trolling for months.
No, you're right.
Who discovered the bullet wound was a stock photo?
I'm not too sure who was the original finder of it. I just happened to be presented with it on a Facebook group. So, you know, it was just good timing, really. Half an hour before the show started, and they'd already done the legwork, so it was great.
Wow.
Who just joined?
Indeed.
Who have we got? Have we got someone new? Apollo. How you
Apollo,
doing?
yeah.
Hey, so what's going on, Nathan? Is somebody hacking the stream or something?
No, usual nonsense. Nothing new, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to be concerned about. Each time it happens, it's, what, 2 minutes work. So it's no big deal. It used to be. Now, who cares? People come in and snipe. The show's open to the public, so, you know, the public will come and try and snipe the show every so often. Especially if we talk about fake space. You know, having gas pressure without a container, debunking it based on the second law of thermodynamics, your entire medium space being ripped to pieces, and then us having a damn good laugh about the fake space they present us with. That tends to get trolls in.
Hi, Ian. You all right?
He'd be placeholding. I think.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
Travis?
Hey, Travis.
Plain truth.
Travis, is that you? No, he's a
Plain
sniper.
truth. No, remove plain truth.
Yeah, I did.
Because he's plain truth is then removed. Apollo and Ranty.
Again, it's because they're. Is it because of the top of the list?
I don't know. Ranty's not top of the list, is he?
Hey,
might be.
good morning, guys.
Can you bring Ranty back in on Skype
Yes,
so
I
that
can,
you don't
yeah.
have to do another hangout?
Yeah. I'll bring Ranty back in on Skype.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. Who was that saying hello?
Brandon.
Good to have you again.
Yeah, thank you.
What's up, Brandon?
Hopefully Ranty will answer his Skype. We'll see.
I did the Cavendish experiment last night, or test, if you guys want to talk about it.
Cavendish
You
experiment.
did the Cavendish.
Yes.
Ooh.
Did
Yeah,
it do
sure.
what they tell us it does?
Yes, but there's caveats to it. So I set up my own rig. I used a ladder as the hanging device and it's a piece of rope, but it's a very thin, it's maybe a 1/4 inch piece of rope. So it still worked, but I used a plastic tube, about, I don't know, 18 inches long. And then on the end of the tube, I stuck 2 oranges. They're little tiny, like tangerine oranges on the end. I just shoved them on there, and I balanced the rope so you know each end was the same height. And then I used 2 25-pound what's called kettlebells. A kettlebell, if you've never seen one, it's a very dense, pretty much solid piece of metal and mass. So I thought that would be a good object to use. And so they're very heavy, they're very dense. This kettlebell is about the size of a small melon, and it's 25 pounds. So
What did you use as your torsion bar?
it was a piece of, it was like a plastic tubing.
Really?
Yeah. Because I wanted it to be light. It was really light. So
before you tell us about the test, then, so first, what side of the argument do you fall, if you don't mind answering?
Sorry.
Which side of the argument do you fall?
Well, now I definitely fall on it's complete pseudoscience. So what I realized is at first I really couldn't believe it because it did move. It moved according to the other tests that I'd seen, like Slido and other people, to where it was pretty much complete, you know, as still as I could get it, and then I put the weights right on the counterweights on each side, and it moved, and I was really kind of freaked out. But here's what I noticed is it moved and it oscillated a few times, and then it stopped. Right after a couple minutes, it stopped, and I thought, wow, that's weird because gravity didn't stop, and you know the movement, in theory, as far as I can tell, it should either be forever or it should be oscillating at some stage for a really long time, and after just 2 or 3 minutes, it stopped. So what I did was I was in my garage and I realized, oh, I'm like 3 feet from this door into my house. So I moved the apparatus away from the door and I set it up in a more isolated area of my garage with potentially less airflow. So I waited about 2 hours and I redid it, and I could not reproduce the movement. And I tried multiple times. I put the weights on the left side, and then I put them on the right side of the torsion rod, and I could not get it to reproduce. So the conclusion I came to is that you can produce this call it unnatural phenomena where you can get the bar to move, but it's got to be static, a combination of static electricity and some type of airflow. Even in my garage, I couldn't get the airflow to nothing, right? There's air around you and the air is moving. You cannot isolate for that unless you go into a vacuum. So I messed with this for about 5 hours, and like I said, the only time I could get this bar to move in a way that they say Cavendish works, you know, via quote unquote gravity, was at the very beginning, like the first setup I did, where I was moving everything around and touching a lot of stuff. And then what I did, I read online that if you use a dryer sheet, you can remove static electricity. So I grabbed a couple dryer sheets and I rubbed both of the weights and some of the area. And I kind of placed the dryer sheets below the weight and below the orange. And like I said, after I moved the setup away from my door and after I rubbed it with the dryer sheets, I couldn't reproduce the movement.
So would you class your experiment as a failure, or would you class it as partial success?
I would classify it as a failure, because once I was able to sort of isolate some of the factors, call it airflow and call it static electricity, I couldn't get it to do it again.
Do what?
I have a.
It doesn't have a valid
That's not
hypothesis,
necessarily a failure.
so-
It's just an unexpected result. The experiment doesn't result in a failure or a success.
Yeah, it does, because it's not an experiment. Experiments are the expression of a hypothesis. This doesn't have a valid hypothesis. It doesn't have a valid...
I'm assuming he had a hypothesis. I'm just saying that you got some information out of what you were doing. It's not a...
Well, I was just doing the test based on what I've seen online, right? I didn't do a ton of research into, like, I should do this, I should do that. I built this apparatus. I did the test. At first, it reproduced what I saw online. It reproduced what looked like a movement, and it looked like it was a movement, and that it wasn't just swinging. It looked like it was pulled, and then it would kind of pause, and then it was pulled the same direction again. But after that, I could not reproduce those results once I moved the apparatus away from my door, which had airflow or more airflow, and then I used the static clean, the dryer sheets, to try and remove as much static as I could. And trust me, I tried for probably an hour, and moving the weights. I moved them close, I moved them far. I did all sorts of stuff. But basically what had happened was the apparatus had more time to settle, and then after the initial movement, there was no more movement. And I don't know the cause of the original movement, and I don't know, well, I know the cause of the no movement because it didn't. That's just it. It's not mass attracting mass.
Did you record any of this?
Yeah, I have a video. I put it on YouTube already. It's about 8.5 minutes.
Excellent.
Have
you got a link?
Part of the video.
If you can get a link to
ahead.
it, Brendan, if you can just stick it in the side chat, I'll pick it up from the Hangout when it pops above your face, and then I'll stick it in the... Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. So I had one commenter say that he thought the rope was too thick. It wasn't too thick, and because it worked at first. It absolutely worked. And like I said, I'm being honest about that. I was almost amazed, like, holy crap, it's working. And then once I isolated, call out those variables or those factors rather, I could not reproduce it. So the first minute and a half of the video is that part of it moving. And it's very slight. It's between 1/4 and a half inch, but you will see different parts of it moving in different parts of the background appearing as the oranges move. Or the focus is on one orange. And then the second part of the video is after I moved the apparatus and after I rubbed it with dryer sheets. I couldn't reproduce the movement.
Why did you use oranges and dryer sheets? It sounds like you might be pulling us.
No. Well, are you listening? I read online that dryer sheets can reduce static cling in clothes, thus static electricity. So all I did was I used the dryer sheet I just rubbed the weights. That's really all I did, because I thought, well, maybe there's something else going on, because I can't, once it settled at first, I couldn't get it to move again. So I thought, well, I want to also, make sure there's nothing else going on with static and all that. So I mean, maybe it did nothing. I don't know.
There is a question for you, though. Are you aware that in the original experiments that he, quote, left the shed because his own mass would influence the outcome, apparently? Did you feel as though your own body mass was influencing anything?
No, I didn't think anything was influencing anything. Especially at first when it worked, I thought, wow, it's working. Like I put the weights there, and all of a sudden the bar is literally moving towards the weight. And there's a ladder there. There's like some shelving. and other small things. And I was a couple feet away from what I'm calling my setup, my apparatus, the ladder. So I didn't feel that anything else was. I felt that those weights were the thing that it was going to the strongest. But again, that was only at first, and I could not. Just to be clear, I could not. I mean, this is a couple of hours of working with it. I could not reproduce the effect. In my opinion, on actually doing the test and seeing it live, is when you're first setting it up, you're moving things around, right? I had a shirt on. I had these like cotton shorts. I'm moving the weight. I'm grabbing it. It's heavy weight, right? 25 pounds. I mean, it's not light. As dense as that single weight is, it's got one handle. I'm moving things around. I'm setting it up. I'm trying to let the cord, you know, the rope hang free for a while, so it's not moving itself. Things like that. So my conclusion was that there was something going on at first, but it was due to other factors. I'm saying airflow and or static electricity or both.
Your share link didn't work. If you can just go to the video and click on share on the actual video and then post the link that it comes up with, because for some reason it wouldn't even let me copy that link.
Okay. All right, here. It's kind of a boring video, but it shows what I wanted. Like I said, the first minute and a half is the oscillate, what I'm calling the oscillation, the lateral sort of movement towards the weight.
What do you think was causing that movement initially?
I think it was a combination of airflow, because I was too close to my utility room door, right? Utility room as in room with like washer and dryer and stuff in it. It's the door that leads from my house to my garage. Now my garage door was closed, and it was really hot. So I thought, oh wow, there's like no airflow in here, right? But then as I was sweating, I took my shirt off and then I started to cool down. And I realized, oh well, it's just, there is air in here. It's the surrounding air, and that air is flowing, right? Whether there's a fan on or not. There was no fans, there was no air conditioner, but there is air. And there was, of course, as we all know, some amount of static electricity. So I can only imagine that at first, like I said, moving the weights around, positioning them, I was touching the rope, all these things that you're touching, and sort of, right, if you rub your feet on carpet, you produce or you create sort of that static electricity effect. So my only assumption is it was a combination of airflow and a minimum amount of static electricity. So where you put those weights on the other side, it does create a movement. But I could only get that movement to work in the first few minutes of the setup. And then after I reset it up, I couldn't do it again.
Really interesting, that.
Yeah.
So what I would say, and one of the biggest takeaways, is that all the videos I've seen, like the one that slided recently, I thought, wow, that's either got to be fake or he did something. Well, no, I actually believe that he got it to move. But what he did was he got it to move, and then he basically stopped his test, and he moved I believe he moved his bowling balls to the other side, and it did it again. Well, no, what I would tell him to do is push your balls there, your bowling balls, and let it sit for an hour, 2 hours, and come back. And if it's still moving, then you got something. See, that's what I did. I left the weights there for hours, and I came back, and they were no longer moving.
Yeah, I think the styrene boards that Sly used played a role in it as well, because in the original experiment, they did not exist. What role is open to debate, but they shouldn't be there. And the fact that they are there makes me ask, why would he do that? And he claims it's to reduce the airflow. But I kind of side with what Bob said on Globebusters, that styrene is a static electricity holder. I think it probably was influencing it in some way. But they shouldn't be there. It seems to be a deliberate deception, in my opinion, for why it did what it did. It shouldn't be there, and that invalidates his experiment, in my opinion.
Well, that's a good point, Anthony. So why did you use oranges? Is it because they're non-conductive, static electricity? Struggling with that.
It's just, to be honest, it's just something, I pieced this all together in a matter of minutes. I grabbed the ladder. I saw the rope sitting there. The tubing was there. And I just thought, well, I need something for the ends. I could have used tennis balls, but tennis balls that are hollow, so I didn't want that to be an excuse. So the oranges were actually heavier than I had a tennis ball or 2 tennis balls that I was going to use. The oranges were actually more dense than the tennis balls, because there's stuff in the orange. There's the orange pulp and all that. So then I just took the oranges and sort of I forced them onto the ends. You know, the tubing cut through the orange. So I wanted something that had some matter inside of it or whatever, so that they couldn't say, oh, well, the tennis, it didn't move because the tennis balls are just mostly air.
Did you weigh the oranges?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Did you know
No.
that oranges can be a source of electricity?
Yeah, you can charge your mobile phone with them, can't you?
That's utter bollocks.
Yeah,
You know
If you
that,
had about
right?
1,000 million of them, yeah, maybe. I've seen demonstrations of a guy who did it with, well, a couple of guys who did it with lemons recently on YouTube, and to get any sort of reasonable power out of it, they had to have literally thousands of them, and they got virtually nothing out of it.
Well, it doesn't need to
I've
be
seen
a
it with
lot of
Hi, Lair
electricity.
Bear. How you
Static
doing?
electricity.
Hello, Lair Bear.
Hey Anthony, how you doing, man?
Hey.
But yeah, static electricity doesn't need a lot of power. It's not the same as a lamp. It's very subtle, but still relatively strong over short distances. So yeah, it has literal electrical components to it, basically. The orange.
So, sorry, one more thing, and then we can move on if you guys want, is the other thing I noticed is it's obviously very telling. You have to do this test on a torsion rod, right? With the cable or rope or wire hanging with the bar. I could not prevent the device from even moving a little bit. I moved the weights, and I only had the rope hanging with the torsion, what I'm calling the torsion bar, and the oranges. I must have gone out for 2 hours, and I came back, and I could still see a slight lateral movement, about 1/8 of an inch. So, you know, the other thing that you have to think of is when it's, I can only imagine at first when it was doing the pull or whatever, the apparent pull, that thing is so fragile. Literally, you could blow on it with your breath barely. You could talk around it, and that thing would appear to, or it would move, because there's such lack of, I don't know, friction or whatever, the movement. So that thing is really easily moved. So at first, again, it just makes sense to me. The static electricity and the airflow combination, almost like when you put the weights or you put the objects on one on the one side and one on the other, and almost like it creates maybe like a vortex, like it sounds stupid, like a little airflow vortex or something. I don't know the answer. I do know.
That's the reason why it's not a scientific experiment, because to validate the scientific hypothesis, you have to manipulate the independent variable to prove the causation for the dependent variable. In other words, you have to manipulate the gravity to show that it is the gravity that's causing what you see. And that's why the Cavendish doesn't prove anything.
I don't recall the answer though. Did you weigh the oranges?
I didn't weigh them. There's probably a generic weight on the bag that I got them from.
So on a torsion bar, which is perfectly balanced, right? In theory.
Yep.
If there's a slight indifference between the weights on either side, it's going to move in a lateral motion.
Not really. It's just going to sag on one side.
Well, and that might cause it to move. I'm just saying, he didn't weigh the oranges, so this is all nonsense.
No,
that doesn't. I don't agree. Yeah, I was able to isolate it enough to where it was moving slightly, but when I put the weight, I'm telling you, I got it to move. You can see in the first minute and a half, it moved on its own in the apparent, what they call is the attraction.
I would like to hear his objection though. So you're saying because it's not weighed, this what validates Cavendish? Validates it as a valid experiment? I don't really get what you're saying.
What he's saying is moving
not you, Arwin.
Equals
not
attraction.
You, Arwin.
Who are you asking?
Yeah.
Nathan, sorry.
Yes, you were the one who raised the objection. I've forgotten your name, my apologies. It's
Brandon.
Brandon, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm saying if there's unequal weights on each side, obviously the torsion bar is going to move.
Yeah, but you don't know that they're unequal weights. You're assuming that.
He's saying he didn't weigh them. I'm not making an assumption that they're equal weights. I'm saying that...
No. The fact that he got it to sit level means that it probably was balanced.
Hold on, Anthony. Hold on.
I want proof that they weigh the same.
I get your answer, but what I'm saying is, from there, what is your conclusion thereafter?
I've drawn no conclusion from this. This is all nonsense.
Fair enough.
Well, this is not a valid experiment.
Well, that's not true. it's another example where the Cavendish experiment doesn't validate up. It doesn't do what they tell us it does.
Well, I know the Cavendish experiment is nonsense. I'm just saying that you can't put 2 oranges on the side of a torsion on each side of a torsion bar if you haven't weighed them and draw any conclusions whatsoever.
Put the oranges on the torsion bar.
It's fine. Okay, I'm going to side with you, I'm afraid, Brandon. Just cast me down. The rest of the panel, I don't care. I agree. However, the fact that you've then backed it up by saying it makes no difference anyway, this isn't a valid experiment, is also true. So even if they were perfectly weighed and it was a perfectly executed sideshow circus example of the Cavendish experiment, it still doesn't prove or disprove anything. So it's irrelevant.
Agreed.
But what you're saying is
nonsense.
But for the people who may be as scrupulous, if that's the word, as you're being, then yeah, that's a valid criticism. But it doesn't change the fact that the Cavendish experiment in and of itself is not an experiment. It doesn't express a hypothesis. So yeah, that it means nothing either way. But it's still a valid criticism. Sorry, Anthony.
It's a flimsy setup.
I don't agree it's an invalid... I don't agree with that. He got it to balance, and he didn't use oranges on the torsion bar. He used the weights on the torsion bar. He used the oranges as a smaller mass. So it doesn't matter about the oranges.
Either way, it's a parlor trick. It's nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, it's a what?
Parlor trick.
I'm not familiar with that phrase, but okay, whatever.
So I call it
like something you go to the
manipulated.
circus and they show you in a tent and they say, "Whoa, look at this! It's a magic trick."
Exactly. It's a parlor trick. That's the, I've not had that word. I shouldn't have known the word parlor trick, but I've been calling it a circus sideshow trick. But yeah, parlor trick is exactly the right word for it.
Hey, can I make a comment on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to round out for a break shortly.
I wanted to ask you something unrelated before you shut it down. But how don't you have too many variables to take the Cavendish seriously? There's no way to, between like seismic activity, trains, jets, there's so many things that could cause a small vibration that it doesn't seem possible to perform it accurately.
Absolutely. The margin of error is huge.
Yes, I agree, but that's not the problem. So, you can argue all day about the validity of the isolation of the quasi-experiment, but that's not the overriding problem. The overriding problem is it's not an experiment. It doesn't express a hypothesis. It is not
I agree.
a hypothesis test. So, regardless of how well you do this pseudoscience, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Right, but still, if it would work properly, then it could be considered as evidence.
No, it couldn't.
Gravitational pull, but it doesn't work properly.
No, it couldn't, Arwin.
It's a flimsy setup.
No, it couldn't, Arwin. It could not be considered evidence of any description.
It could be evidence, Nathan. He is right. It's just not strong evidence, and it doesn't fall within the scientific method.
Absolutely does not. You're correct, Riley.
It's too late in the day. I'm going to start a new show and have a little break and make myself a coffee. Otherwise, I would get into this argument about evidence, which we have had over the last 2 days, and you know it. That's why you've done it at this moment, and I know you're a sod. With that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and sharing this debate. Although this is the second show, or part 2 of number 450, there will be another show after this, so be sure to stick around and tune in for that. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!